Okay, unpack this with me. What if I told you that profound wisdom, hidden knowledge, insights into your life and the world around you aren't just found in dusty ancient texts or whispered by mysterious figures in darkened rooms?
Hmm.
What if they're right there, in your deck of playing cards, the dice from your board games, the books on your shelf, maybe even the spare change in your pocket?
It sounds almost, well, mundane, doesn't it? Perhaps even a little absurd.
Right.
But the fascinating idea we're exploring in this deep dive, straight from the source material you shared, is that these everyday objects can serve as potent oracles.
Potent oracles, okay.
Not just tools for a select few, but accessible guides the author calls ordinary oracles, capable of revealing surprising truths if you know how to listen.
And that's exactly our mission today.
Well,
We're diving deep into this book's central premise, that oracles do work, that you are fundamentally capable of using them, and that they can offer genuinely powerful, sometimes laugh-out-loud funny guidance. We're going to peel back the layers, understand the core principles that supposedly make this possible, and then get specific, looking at how you might actually use your own ordinary items to tap into this potential.
yeah, and we'll trace some ancient lines connecting everyday objects to sacred knowledge, uncover 7 surprising secrets about how these oracles function, secrets that might completely reframe your understanding of divination,
7 secrets, okay.
and explore specific practical methods using things like coins, dice, cards, and even a certain famous playwright's work. It's a journey less about foretelling a rigid future and more about gaining clearer vision in the dynamic present.
So grab a comfy seat. Maybe check under the cushions for loose change. You never know, because we're about to discover the unexpected wisdom hidden in the thoroughly ordinary.
To really grasp this concept of ordinary oracles, our source material starts by grounding us in some incredibly old ideas. It takes us back to ancient beliefs where fundamental human abilities like spoken language, writing, and the arts weren't just invented, they were seen as divine gifts.
Right, like the Sumerian legends of Oannes, this sort of fishman creature that came out of the sea to teach them everything language, how to build cities, all of it.
Exactly. Or Thoth for the Egyptians, Hermes for the Greeks. This wasn't just learning, it was receiving sacred knowledge from higher powers. And this idea of knowledge transmission being tied to something as fundamental as written language connects directly to a very old form of divination, bibliomancy, using books as oracles.
Bibliomancy, okay.
The source points out that after the printing press, books were still rare and expensive for centuries. For many in Europe, the only book they owned, if any, was the Holy Bible.
Which, as the supposed word of God, naturally became a focal point for seeking divine guidance. People would ask a heartfelt question, open the Bible randomly, and take the passage they landed on as a direct message.
Yeah, and the author suggests that approached with genuine sincerity and, skill in interpretation, this method could be incredibly effective. But here's the twist that makes this book so interesting. It doesn't limit bibliomancy to sacred texts.
Oh.
It proposes that any book, even a completely ordinary one, can function as an oracle.
I love that. And the author's editor apparently ran with that idea, suggesting the book itself could be used.
Yes, the source includes wonderfully simple, almost playful instructions for using the book as a bibliomantic oracle. You think of your question, close your eyes, shuffle and rotate the book until you're completely disoriented about how you're holding it, wait for a moment of intuition, and then just open it randomly and read the answer on that page.
Go ahead, give it a try, have fun. That line really jumped out at me.
Yeah.
It feels like that sense of fun is central to the whole philosophy here.
It absolutely is. The author argues that embracing fun is crucial because it's what prevents us from succumbing to cynicism, despair, and feeling crushed by life's difficulties, what he calls the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
Right.
It gives you the essential gift of being able to laugh at the chaos and maybe even at yourself.
And that links back to the classic image of Fortuna, the goddess of fortune and her turning wheel. You're up, you're down. Life is inherently unpredictable. The figure of the fortune teller is tied to this, a reminder to take life seriously enough to seek understanding, but not so seriously that you lose your sense of humor about the ride itself.
Which brings us to the word fortune teller. For many, it conjures that specific, often negative image, the archetypal figure. Perhaps a dark-eyed gypsy woman with a crystal ball or tarot deck, reading palms or casting bones. You know the one.
Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, that image is also deeply intertwined with a history of fraud, scams, and exploitation, which the source acknowledges as an accursed legacy.
Yeah, it's tough. It unfairly taints both the fraudulent and those who might genuinely possess insights.
It's quite striking that the source includes the historical note that fortune-telling wasn't just looked down upon. It was sometimes legally classified as a crime, even punishable by death in certain historical periods.
Wow, punishable by death. That adds a surprising layer to the stereotype.
Doesn't it? But this book offers a much broader, more inclusive definition. A fortune teller, in this context, is simply anyone who uses divinatory techniques or oracles to gain knowledge of hidden things.
Okay.
So by that definition, anyone picking up this book and giving one of these methods a try is essentially stepping into that role.
And to help us understand how these ordinary things could possibly reveal hidden knowledge, the source lays out 7 underlying principles, phrasing them as the 7 secrets of fortune-telling.
Ooh, secrets.
They sound dramatic, but they offer a fascinating framework for thinking about oracular work.
Okay, let's dive into these secrets. Secret number 1 immediately sounds empowering. You are more psychic than you think.
Yes. The foundational belief here is that psychic ability isn't rare or limited to a gifted few. Everyone possesses it to some degree. The difference is how connected you are to that ability. The author shares his own early experience with this Crowley-Harris Thoth tarot back in 1974. He felt completely lost, like he didn't know what he was doing, yet the cards seemed to read themselves, and others found his readings accurate, even if he initially didn't see the profound meaning himself.
That's interesting. It suggests the information was coming through him, even if his conscious mind wasn't fully grasping it. And that leads into this story about the ill-fated prank, which seems to really highlight this idea.
It does. The author and his wife, Constance, devised this plan to essentially cure their friend Daphne, whom they felt was spending too much time and money on psychic readings and was, overly dependent on them.
Right, a sort of intervention via prank.
Kind of. The prank was to tell her a completely made-up, preposterously silly, over-the-top dream story, pretending it was a past life psychic vision, hoping the sheer absurdity would shock her into reality, perhaps through shared laughter.
They put a lot of effort into this, even rehearsing the ridiculous story to try and maintain a straight face. The key was to start just grounded enough to draw her in before the silliness became obvious. So the author begins telling Daphne about her being Miriam, daughter of Gib, back in Babylon.
And instead of the expected laughter or skepticism, Daphne's reaction was completely unexpected and unsettling. She gasped, her eyes went wide, and they immediately filled with tears.
Oh, no.
In that instant, the author realized the cruelty of what he was doing, toying with a real person's genuine beliefs and feelings.
He felt immediate, intense shame. He stopped speaking, looking desperately to Constance for help. But she was frozen, equally shocked by Daphne's reaction.
And then Daphne misinterpreted his silence. She saw it as the reluctance of a sensitive psychic, hesitant to reveal a potentially painful past life vision.
Oh, wow.
She leaned in, urging him to continue, and other guests in the room started gathering around, drawn by the emotional intensity. The author felt completely trapped and, despite his shame and desire to stop, felt compelled to finish the stupid story.
So this prank, intended to expose the potential for fraud in psychic readings, actually demonstrated something else entirely.
Kind of the opposite, yeah.
Even though the author was consciously trying to lie and be ridiculous, Daphne's profound emotional reaction and apparent connection to the story suggest that something unexpected, perhaps tapping into that inherent psychic ability or a deeper level of connection, came through despite his conscious intent.
Exactly. It highlights that the mind might be capable of accessing information beyond its immediate awareness. The author ties this back to the idea of training the stupid part of oneself, the conscious, skeptical part, to listen to the wise and all-knowing part.
Which brings us neatly to secret number 2. You are the oracle. This principle suggests that the power isn't really in the cards or the dice, it's in the person using them.
That makes sense, especially after the first secret. If everyone is psychic, then the user is the conduit. This is illustrated by another anecdote, this time from Book Expo America. Yes, the author was giving impromptu tarot readings at a booth. He admits he was mostly faking it after a while, just tossing out buzzwords or lying about negative interpretations, feeling like a total phony.
Been there, done that. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Right. But then a woman approached him and asked for a real reading, stating quite bluntly that her kidneys were broken anyway, implying she had nothing to lose.
Whoa, heavy. That's a challenging request.
Totally. The first card he drew for her was the Wheel of Fortune. Based on his general understanding, he interpreted this as her question being related to a gamble or a risk, which she confirmed, explaining her husband had just bought her a bookstore and she was at the expo to order stock.
Okay, so far so good, even for a phony reading.
Seemed okay. But then came the second card, the Knight of Wands. And the author admits he despises court cards and finds them particularly difficult to interpret. He was stuck.
Oh.
In a moment of frustration, or perhaps that subconscious connection bubbling up again, he just blurted out, "Oh, lady, does this have anything to do with a black horse?"
He actually said that.
Apparently. And her reaction was dramatic. She gasped, genuinely amazed, and exclaimed, "My God, my husband just sold our racehorse to pay for the bookstore."
Wow. So his frustrated, almost random question, based on a card he couldn't interpret consciously, somehow hit on a major hidden fact in her life.
Exactly. The author was internally floored, still feeling like a phony, despite this undeniable hit. The third card was the Fool, which he personally took as a cosmic joke, but told her she would have fun with the bookstore regardless.
Incredible.
This experience, combined with his conversations with countless other seers, revealed a common pattern. It's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to get a clear, satisfactory answer from an oracle when the question concerns yourself.
Because your own conscious hopes, fears, biases, and intentions get in the way of that pure channel. You are the oracle, but your own ego is the static.
Precisely. This self-attachment hinders the flow of information that seems to come through you, not from your conscious desires.
Okay, let's tackle secret number 3. There is no future, only the great now. This contradicts the fundamental reason many people seek out divination in the first place.
It does, doesn't it? The common perception is that oracles predict a fixed path or a predetermined event. But the source argues against this, asserting that the future isn't set in stone. It's in a perpetual state of fluidity, constantly changing based on actions and influences in the present moment.
Which, when you think about it, makes perfect sense. Every tiny decision we make, every unexpected event, creates ripples that alter what could happen next. Trying to see a fixed point in something constantly shifting seems inherently impossible.
Exactly. So the source posits that oracles aren't showing you a fixed future. Instead, they are announcing the status of the great now.
The great now, I like that.
They reflect the current state of affairs, the energies in motion, the potential paths diverging from this present moment. The challenge then becomes our ability to see the future or hear the answer in that announcement. This requires interpreting the present snapshot and understanding the direction of the flow. The author says this can be incredibly difficult, requiring deep intuitive skill. Or sometimes it can be as simple as opening your eyes if you're truly present and aware of what the oracle is showing you right now.
Moving on. Secret number 4 sounds quite grand. The oracle is a superior intelligence. Is the book suggesting we're talking to spirits or gods?
Well, it directly asks that question. Are you making contact with a supernatural intelligence that actually cares about your questions? And the source answers yes, but with a crucial caveat.
Okay.
Supernatural might simply be nature as yet unexplained, something currently beyond our scientific understanding.
Okay, so not necessarily ghosts or angels in the traditional sense, but perhaps a level of reality or consciousness we don't fully comprehend yet.
Exactly. The source mentions a psychological perspective, linking it to Jungian ideas of tapping into higher or collective levels of consciousness that science might eventually be able to measure.
Sure.
Or, yes, the alternative is personifying it as a deity or guiding spirit, as has been done throughout history. But the source is surprisingly pragmatic about this. It doesn't insist you believe one way or the other about where this intelligence resides, your brain, your soul, the cosmos, Graceland, wherever. Its stance is, so what? If it works, go with it.
So, treat it as if it's a superior intelligence, regardless of your personal metaphysical beliefs. Just act like it is.
Precisely. The source gives a historical example of Gnostic magicians invoking IAO to send the angel Hru for tarot operations, showing this principle in ancient practice. The author also shares his personal preference, saying he finds it easy to visualize Ganesha, the Hindu elephant-headed god, as an icon of this higher intelligence. He notes Ganesha seems entirely unconcerned that the author isn't an orthodox Hindu. Visualizing Ganesha simply makes the connection feel more real and direct for him.
Interesting. And this invoking of a superior intelligence, whatever form it takes for you, is presented as a key step in getting out of your own way, allowing that information to flow through you, the oracle.
Yes, exactly. Which leads into the next principle.
Secret number 5. The oracle is always right. Okay, this is probably the hardest one for people to accept, especially when an answer seems completely wrong or nonsensical.
It really goes against our natural instinct to say, well, that reading was clearly off. So
Mhm.
the source says you must assume the oracle is 100% accurate, even if it appears irrational.
That's the rule for engaging with it. If the answer you get doesn't seem to match the reality you're observing, the inconsistency, according to the source, must be attributed to your interpretation of the answer, not the oracle being incorrect.
Tough one.
The source is refreshingly honest about how difficult this can be, admitting, very often, it is difficult if not impossible to get an understandable answer from an oracle.
And the author is quite blunt, stating that if you feel the oracle isn't home or connecting properly, it's actually you who isn't on top of the situation. After all, you're consulting the oracle because you lack a clear understanding in the first place.
Right, good point.
But thankfully, the source immediately points out that the process of interpretation is made much easier by the next secret.
Okay, let's hear it. Secret number 6. The question is more important than the answer. This seems like such a practical point relevant to almost any inquiry, not just divination.
It is. The source quotes the physicist Werner Heisenberg. Nature never reveals itself to us as it is, but rather always through the questions we put to it. This applies perfectly here. The oracle might be this superior intelligence with access to vast information, but if your question is poorly formulated, vague, or unfocused, you won't get a clear, useful response.
So asking something like, should I quit my job and take this new offer, is problematic, too broad.
According to the source, yes, it's too broad. A better approach might involve multiple, more specific questions. What are the potential challenges of staying in my current job? What are the hidden benefits of the new offer? What personal strengths should I focus on when making this decision? By refining the question, you give the oracle something concrete to respond to.
That makes sense. And thinking about how the oracle responds, the source lists such a huge variety of divination methods: bibliomancy, cartomancy, ostromancy using the wind, bacanomancy, plants, necromancy, the dead, waneromancy, dreams, zoomancy, animals. It's quite a list.
It is, and the point is that each method is like a different language that nature or the superior intelligence can use to communicate the answer to your well-formed question. If your question is specific, the oracle has a much better chance of responding in a way that is recognizable within the framework of the tool you are using.
Okay, and finally, secret number 7. Oracles work because they're perfect. Where does perfection come into play with things like coins or cards? Seems a bit abstract.
The source emphasizes mathematical perfection as a core element. It talks about the significance of numbers, linking them to concepts like Kabbalah, and the idea that mathematical structures can provide a way to access or understand aspects of the mind of God or the, fundamental blueprint of the universe.
So the inherent patterns, counts, and relationships within these tools, the 52 cards, the 12 possibilities with 2 dice, the 2 sides of a coin, are seen as embodying this perfection, this structure.
Exactly. Geometry and music, the classic music of the spheres idea, are also mentioned as other forms of perfection. This secret bridges the more abstract principles, like the existence of a superior intelligence and the fluid nature of reality, with the concrete physical structure of the tools used in ordinary oracles. The mathematical and structural perfection of these objects makes them suitable conduits for tapping into these deeper levels of insight.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. Oracles have ancient roots in divine knowledge transmission. They should be approached with a sense of fun, and anyone seeking hidden knowledge is, by definition, a fortune teller. We've explored the 7 secrets. You're psychic. You're the channel. Getting out of your own way is key. The future is dynamic. Focus on the great now. There's a superior intelligence at play, however you conceive of it. The oracle is always right. Blame your interpretation. The question is paramount, and it all works because of underlying perfection in the tools. That's a lot.
It's quite a framework.
Yeah.
And now, with those principles in mind, we can look at how the source applies them to specific ordinary oracles, with examples that demonstrate the secrets in action.
All right, let's do it. Let's kick off with perhaps the most ordinary object imaginable. Coin, the oracle of the coin.
Its power lies in its utter simplicity, based on the number 2 and the fundamental principle of polarity, heads or tails, yes or no, on or off. The ritual is simple. Clear your mind, formulate a question that can be answered with a yes or a no, speak it aloud, and flip a coin.
Couldn't be simpler. And according to Secret 5, the result is absolutely correct. The challenge, as the source notes, isn't getting the right answer, But interpreting the cosmic toggle switch. Does heads mean yes or no? Does tails mean the opposite? That's the tricky part.
This ambiguity is part of the process, forcing you to engage your intuition or set your intention beforehand. The author shares this fantastic, detailed anecdote from Pantheon to show exactly how this can play out, blending deep synchronicity with unexpected humor.
Oh yeah, this story was great.
He was on a panel about unusual divinatory techniques and wanted to demonstrate Koween live.
His initial question wasn't a simple yes-no, though. He asked, what words of wisdom concerning the Oracle of Koween can I give to tomorrow's panel discussion on divination?
Yeah.
Bit more complex.
Right. So he used a series of yes-no questions with Koween to narrow down where these words of wisdom could be found. He flipped the coin, getting tails no, one asking if they were in a book, other written material, or on the TV. This was frustrating, apparently, as finding answers in a book is a common Koween practice.
He kept going, asking about various objects near the door of the room. A coffee maker, 4 condiment packets, a bottle of water. He asked if the words were on the 5 smaller objects. Tails no. Then he specifically asked, are the words of wisdom on the coffee maker?
Heads, yes. To be sure, he asked again, really, on the coffee maker? Again, heads, yes. This is where the oracular communication got specific, pointing him to an ordinary object in the room.
Okay, the coffee maker. Based on the initial 6 objects near the door, the coffee maker plus 5 others, he made a public prophecy for the panel the next day, that when asked for a number between 1 and 10, someone from the audience would say 6. Bold move.
Very bold. Fast forward to the crowded panel the next day. The author, speaking first, decided to fulfill the prophecy. He turned to his fellow panelist, Eric Lewis, seated next to him, and asked, Eric, think of a number between 1 and 10.
And Eric said, 7.
Oops. The author's immediate, unfiltered internal and external reaction was apparently, F you.
Huh. The audience, unaware of the backstory, just found this outburst hilarious, right?
Huh. Exactly. But the author felt he had failed. He decided to tell the whole story of the coffee maker Koween operation anyway, planning to sheepishly admit at the end that sometimes oracles just don't work. He recounted the whole thing, the questions, the flips, the yes on the coffee maker, the prediction about 6 from the audience.
He got to the part where Eric said 7, but then someone in the audience spoke up.
Yes, someone in the crowd corrected him, pointing out that Eric was a panelist, not an audience member. A light bulb went off for the author.
The prophecy specified audience.
Right. He turned to the packed audience and, with the renewed sense of possibility, asked, Audience, give me a number between 1 and 10.
And the entire room, in unison, thundered back. 6.
Boom. A truly spectacular, almost unbelievable moment that completely validated the initial prophecy, despite the author's initial misstep. It felt incredibly synchronistic and, frankly, like great showmanship from the oracle itself.
That's an amazing story, perfectly illustrating how the oracle can be right in a surprising way, even if your initial interpretation or application is a bit off. The source also mentions a second Koween operation the author did that night, specifically to show how to interpret the heads-tails polarity.
Right. He asked about the person who would be in the third chair from his right at the panel the next day. By flipping the coin against potential characteristics, he predicted 2 possible outcomes depending on whether heads meant yes or no.
One outcome was a woman in a hat and red dress who wouldn't be amused. The other was a man in blue pants with no hat who would be amused. Very specific.
The next day, the person in that chair was Brian Williams, a hatless man in blue jeans, who did indeed laugh at the author's jokes during the panel. That prediction was also accurate, fitting the amused man outcome, but it was far less dramatic than the audience thundering 6, so he didn't mention it during the panel.
Understandable. But the true genius of the coffee maker divination, the actual words of wisdom, only struck the author later, on his flight home. He realized the 6 directions for making coffee weren't the only words on the machine.
Right. On the side was the simple power switch, and the 2 words printed next to it, perfectly embodying Koween's essence of polarity. On, off, off.
Oh, that's brilliant. Subtle.
It was a subtle, perfect answer hidden in plain sight, delivered through the most ordinary of objects.
That really drives home that idea of finding wisdom in the most mundane places. Okay, from flipping coins, let's roll on to the next ordinary oracle. Dice. The source playfully links this to the famous debate between Einstein and Stephen Hawking about whether God plays dice with the universe.
Yes, the source points out that quantum physics, with its inherent unpredictability like the uncertainty principle, does seem to lean towards a universe where randomness is fundamental, perhaps implying the universe, or whatever intelligence governs it, might indeed be an inveterate gambler.
Huh. And dice divination is incredibly ancient, evolving from practices like throwing animal knuckle or knee bones among groups like the Etruscans.
Importantly, the source notes that over centuries, traditional throw answers, or meanings, have become associated with specific numbers when rolling standard six-sided dice. The author includes his own simplified lists based on these classic associations.
So you're not just getting a random number, you're getting a number that has a traditional oracular meaning attached to it.
Exactly. For two dice, the possible sums range from 2 to 12, each with a meaning, like 2 meaning yes, 3 meaning no, 4 indicating danger, 6 suggesting you will easily get your way, 9 for success in everything, 11 bringing money or love luck, and 12 promising big happiness and success. Pretty straightforward.
And for 3 dice, which gives you a wider range of sums, 3 to 18, the meanings become a bit more nuanced, I guess.
A bit more, yeah. 3 can mean trouble or misunderstanding. 7 suggests loss or jealousy. 11 is unexpected success. 18 can mean popularity or a child. And a high roll like 26, which I assume must be a typo in the source, as 3 dice only go to 18. But let's roll with it, as presented means biggest happiness and success, with the author's humorous suggestion to buy a lottery ticket. Maybe refers to a different dice system, or just enthusiasm.
Okay, maybe a little authorial flourish there. The source also mentions basic rituals like casting a circle to roll the dice within, or using a cup to shake them, adding a touch of formality to the process.
Yeah, adds a bit of ritual gravity. There are even superstitions, like not reading a die that rolls outside the circle or taking a break if all dice fall outside twice in a row.
And as the source humorously points out, if you're already consulting an oracle with dice, you've probably already suspended a bit of rational disbelief, so playing along with a few superstitions isn't a big leap.
True enough. Moving from dice, let's look at playing cards. The source draws a direct and significant connection between a standard 52-card deck and the tarot, specifically the minor arcana.
Right, and this connection highlights the mathematical and structural perfection Secret 7 mentions. The 4 suits, clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds, correspond to the 4 Kabbalistic worlds, or realms of existence, and to the 4 aspects of the human soul, reflected in the structure of the Tree of Life.
The source suggests that while a standard deck might lack the rich imagery of a full tarot deck, its underlying structure is mathematically and kabbalistically sound, making it a powerful oracular tool in its own right. You've got the perfection right there.
Okay. The general meanings of the suits provide a broad context. Clubs relate to control, business, and constructive efforts. Hearts represent emotions, love, and relationship matters. Spades often deal with the intellect, challenges, and conflict. And diamonds concern the material world, money, property, possessions, and labor. Pretty clear categories.
Yes. The source also discusses the significator card, a card chosen to represent the person asking the question, often based on their birthday, linking them to one of the royal cards within the suits. This helps focus the reading on their specific energy or situation.
And Secret 6 comes up strongly again here, the importance of asking specific questions. The source contrasts a focused question with a vague one, like, tell me what the cards have to say about me, which the author says is so unfocused he wouldn't even bother shuffling, just pulling the top card as the answer to that vague query.
Yeah, a bit dismissive, but it makes the point about clarity. To illustrate how playing cards can be used for complex readings, the source briefly describes the structure of a common layout like the Celtic cross spread, showing how different card positions address various aspects of a question, the immediate influence, opposing forces, hopes, fears, potential outcomes, and so on.
Right, it's not just pulling one card usually. There's also a more unusual method mentioned, the solitaire oracle, where you ask your question and then play a game of solitaire, interpreting the cards you managed to play successfully onto the final foundation stacks. That sounds interesting.
It does. And to give a flavor of the insights playing cards can offer, the source provides examples of specific card meanings. For instance, the King of Clubs can signify dominion or authority. The Ace of Hearts suggests love, marriage, or joy. The King of Spades might represent force or control. The Ace of Spades is the challenging seed of sorrow or the beginning of an attack.
Oof, Ace of Spades.
Yeah. The King of Diamonds relates to instincts or a businessman, and the Ace of Diamonds points to material success, money, or a present. These few examples show how a simple deck holds a complex language.
Definitely. Next, we dive into a very specific application of the tarot, tailored for a particular challenge. The Tarot of the Painful Truth, designed for self-reading using only the major arcana.
Right, and reading for yourself is notoriously difficult. Our own desires, fears, and biases easily distort our interpretation. The source notes that the author himself found it so challenging he stopped trying for years, finding other oracles like the I Ching more objective for personal questions.
So this oracle uses just the 22 major arcana cards, the trumps. But the key differentiator seems to be the interpretations themselves. They're intentionally blunt, harsh, even abrasive, designed to shatter self-deception and wake you up, not your usual gentle guidance.
They really don't pull punches. Let's look at some examples from the source to see what I mean. If you draw the Fool in a self-reading using this oracle, the interpretation is, you're being an idiot here. The fact that you need a tarot card to inform you of this fact is proof positive that you really are embarrassingly stupid.
Ouch. That certainly cuts through any romantic notions. What about the Magician? Usually about skill and potential.
Not here. That card suggests you're just juggling too many things, moving stuff around without actually creating anything new. The stark message is, to change the situation, you're first going to have to change yourself. It points the finger squarely back at you. No externalizing.
Okay, direct. The Hermit is usually about introspection and solitude. How does that get twisted?
In this oracle, it's more like a stern directive. Put your hands behind your head, sir, and step away from the question. You need to do hard time with yourself. It's about enforced, difficult self-examination, not just quiet contemplation, like solitary confinement for the soul.
Wow. The Wheel of Fortune sounds hopeful, maybe, but given the pattern.
It challenges your perception of your luck. It asks how bad your luck really is and reminds you that you are always in the moment just before your luck changes. It forces you to decide if things are so bad they have to get better or so good they must get worse, insisting you determine which way the wheel is turning rather than the cards telling you. Puts the onus on you again.
Okay, no easy answers there. The Tower, known for upheaval and destruction. That's already pretty intense.
Here it means your question or situation has a boil on it. Destruction isn't just possible. It's presented as inevitable, part of a necessary cycle that leads to healing after the painful explosive collapse. It leans into the painful necessity.
Right. The Moon, often associated with illusion or intuition, maybe secrets?
In this context, it's the ultimate card of deception. It signals that you're feeling uneasy because someone, maybe others, maybe everyone, or most likely you, is lying, or things are definitely not what they seem. The only comfort offered is that eventually it will pass. Cold comfort, maybe.
Very cold. The Sun, typically a card of joy and success. Surely that one's positive.
Not in the tarot of the painful truth. It calls you a conceited peacock and declares it's all about you, isn't it?
Oh my goodness.
It's a direct challenge to your ego and self-image, forcing you to confront if you're truly happy, if people genuinely like you, or if they're just humoring you. Brutal self-assessment.
And finally, the Star, which is the last major arcana discussed in this section of the source. Does it offer any relief?
Actually, yes. The Star offers a flicker of genuine hope and affirmation after all that bluntness. It reminds you that deep down inside, every man and every woman is a star. You have your own unambiguous place in the universe.
That's better.
The powerful concluding message for this card is that the star you must wish upon is yourself. So even the hope is self-reliant. These interpretations are clearly designed to be confrontational and provoke deep, uncomfortable self-honesty, not for the faint of heart.
Definitely not. From the introspective to the literary, let's turn to a truly unique oracle mentioned. Ask Shakespeare, using The Tempest.
This creative oracle was developed by Anne Quinn and utilizes quotes from Shakespeare's play The Tempest. The source highlights the play's suitability as it centers around a powerful magician, Prospero, who uses magic commanding spirits, creating illusions to ultimately achieve his goals and bring about a positive outcome. A fitting choice.
Anne Quinn selected 36 key quotes from the play and put them on cards. The ritual described for using this oracle is quite specific and evocative. You stand facing east, towards Stratford-on-Avon, and invoke Shakespeare using specific lines from the play, such as "No tongue, all eyes, be silent," or "All hail, great master."
Nice theatrical touch.
Then you spread the cards face down, select one, read the quote silently, and conclude with specific closing lines like, "Our revels now are ended," and "We are such stuff as dreams are made of." Very atmospheric.
The author shares a personal anecdote of using this oracle with a deliberately rude and frankly sophomoric question. He asked, who really wrote the Shakespeare plays? William Shakespeare or Sir Francis Bacon, intending to perhaps poke fun at the whole process.
Always testing the boundaries, this author. And the oracle, through Shakespeare's words, delivered a perfectly fitting and hilariously dismissive response, didn't it?
It really did. The card he drew said, "I do smell all horse piss, at which my nose is in great indignation."
That is absolutely brilliant. A truly Shakespearean way to say, your question stinks, and don't be ridiculous.
Exactly. And just to be impudent, the author says he drew a second card, receiving another perfectly apt answer. At this time, I will tell no tale.
Though down again.
Completely. The source lists other examples of quotes used, showing the range of potential answers, from wise reflections like, some kinds of baseness are nobly undergone, and comforting assurance like, be not afeared, to blunt dismissals like, thou liest. It's a clever way to access a widely recognized superior intelligence, the collected wisdom and wit of the bard himself.
Absolutely. From the literary to the more physically interactive, let's explore the pendulum. Classic tool.
It is. The pendulum is a classic, ancient divinatory tool. It's essentially just a weight suspended from a string, chain, or even a stiff wand. The basic method involves holding it steady and asking yes-no questions, with the pendulum swinging in one direction, often clockwise, for yes, and the opposite counterclockwise for no, or swinging over potential answers written down. Simple mechanics.
The author shares a detailed and quite entertaining anecdote about using a pendulum to try and figure out the name of an intelligence he felt he was communicating with. This story really shows the interaction.
He started with straightforward yes-no questions to locate the name. Was it in a book? Yes. Downstairs? No, upstairs in the loft, yes. But then when he asked if the pendulum would swing to point out the book, it said no. He was at an impasse.
Okay, so direct pointing wasn't working.
Right. So he changed tactics and got out a set of Scrabble tiles. He held the pendulum over each tile, asking if it was a letter in the intelligence's name. This process yielded the letters P-H-O-C-U.
P-H-O-C-U. Interesting combination.
Seeing these letters, the author had a thought, a rather cheeky thought. He held the pendulum and asked, "Are you saying to me F-U?"
He asked that directly.
Yep. The pendulum swung clearly clockwise for yes. He then, somewhat cautiously, asked if F-U was its name. The pendulum swung counterclockwise for no.
Yeah. That's the impish sense of humor the source mentioned earlier coming through that's messing with him.
Absolutely. He realized he was dealing with an intelligence that enjoyed a bit of wordplay or maybe testing his reaction. He then confirmed the letters did spell the name, but not in that order. So he rearranged the tiles and used the pendulum again to determine the correct sequence, resulting in P-O-C-H-U.
P-O-C-H-U.
He asked if that was the name, and the pendulum said yes. Finally, remembering a mischievous creature from mythology, he asked if the name was Puka, and the pendulum said yes.
Puka, okay.
And then, perhaps to confirm the oracle's earlier joke, he asked if it had wanted to spell P-U first. And again, the pendulum swung clockwise for yes.
That's a fantastic illustration of how the oracle isn't necessarily just a dry source of information. It can have personality, wit, even a bit of a prankster side, and it reinforces that sometimes the communication is multi-layered.
It does. Our final specific oracle, and one the author acknowledges is hardly ordinary in the common sense, is the I Ching, or the Book of Changes. However, the source includes it because it presents ways to use this powerful oracle with ordinary tools, describing it as an industrial-strength, supersized, deluxe version of Coin.
Right. It's definitely a heavyweight, but maybe accessible through simple means. It has such a long and revered history.
Indeed. The source touches on figures like Fu Si, credited with the foundational concepts of yin and yang and the 8 trigrams, King Wen, who developed the 64 hexagrams and wrote their initial interpretations, and Confucius, who added extensive commentaries and reportedly studied the I Ching with such intensity that the binding on his copy broke 3 times. That's dedication.
Wow. The core philosophy, nothing endures but change, feels very relevant to Secret 3 about the great now and the fluid future.
It is. The I Ching is seen as revealing not just the status of the great now, but also the dynamic process of becoming, how the current situation is changing and evolving. The author uses the analogy of a cartoonist flipping through pages. Each page is a static snapshot of the moment, the great now, but the sequence of pages shows the movement and transformation, the becoming. The I Ching provides both the snapshot and the direction of the change.
Nice analogy. It works using yin, broken, and yang, solid lines, which combine into trigrams, 3 lines, and then hexagrams, 6 lines, stacking 2 trigrams. That's the basic structure.
And the source explains how you can consult this ancient oracle using ordinary objects. The classic method is the coin method, where you toss 3 coins 6 times to generate the 6 lines of your hexagram. The combination of heads and tails determines whether each line is yin, yang, or a moving line, old yin or old yang, which indicates where the change is happening.
Okay, so coins work. What else?
There are also dice methods described, variations like rolling a single die 6 times, 2 dice 3 times, or 3 dice 2 times, each generating the 6 lines in a specific way. There's even a blank die method, where you draw yin-yang lines on a die and roll it 6 times. Lots of ways to generate the lines with simple tools.
Right. And the interpretation process, as outlined, involves first finding your initial hexagram and reading its overall meaning, which describes the current situation.
Then you identify any moving lines. These are crucial as they show where the energy is transforming. You read the specific meaning associated with each moving line.
Okay.
Finally, you create a resulting hexagram by changing the moving lines to their opposite, yin to yang to yin, and read its meaning, which describes where the situation is heading or the potential future state. It's a multi-step reading.
Got it. Initial state, the change itself, and the resulting state. The author mentions using his own unique text for interpreting the I Ching in the book, The I Ching of Milo, which he describes as highly personal, mildly vulgar, and definitely not scholarly. Sounds like his style.
It's certainly frank. We can share a couple of examples from his Milo text to give a sense of its tone. For hexagram 5, waiting, the meaning is be calm, have patience even if things are getting hairy. Eat, drink, enjoy this short break from your struggles. Very direct advice to pause and breathe.
Practical. Or hexagram 21, biting through, which deals with obstacles or difficulties.
That one says, criminal lawsuit, treacherous traitor must be busted and punished, throw the book at him. And also, the case is complicated, but guilt is obvious. Watch out. The bad guys have powerful friends. Be hard as nails and twice as sharp. It's a very assertive, even aggressive interpretation.
Whoa. Very different feel. What about, say, hexagram 61, inner truth?
Milano's take is about purity and strength on the inside, contrasting it with phony charisma. It advises listening to the original source of truth inside you, not just external appearances.
And finally, hexagram 63, after completion, which sounds like an endpoint, is interpreted how?
It says, the new order begins. It's so balanced and perfect, you're tempted to just relax and enjoy. Big mistake. Are you wise enough to spot the potential for decay and trouble in all this blissful perfection? It powerfully reinforces the I Ching's core idea that even completion is just a state of becoming, always containing the seeds of future change or potential trouble, no resting on laurels.
These examples show how the I Ching, even when interpreted through a unique lens like the I Ching of Milo, provides complex, multi-layered insights into the dynamic nature of reality, going far beyond simple yes-no or fortune-telling predictions.
Definitely a sophisticated tool, even with ordinary access methods.
So we've taken this deep dive, starting from ancient ideas of sacred knowledge linked to fundamental human skills, explored 7 surprising secrets about how oracles might actually function, and looked at how you can apply these ideas using specific ordinary tools, coins, dice, playing cards, a very blunt tarot, Shakespeare's words, a pendulum, and even the ancient I Ching. It's been quite a tour.
And the source material brings it all together in its epilogue with a powerful, all-encompassing idea. It suggests that everything you observe, whether it's something happening externally in the world around you or an internal thought, feeling, or intuitive impression, is actually a direct communication to your soul from that superior intelligence.
That's a huge thought. It implies that the universe isn't just a random collection of events. It's constantly talking to us, offering guidance, insights, and maybe even warnings all the time through everything we experience, like the whole world is an oracle.
It does seem to imply that. The author acknowledges that being fully open and ready to listen to that voice constantly, 24 hours a day, might require an extreme level of integrity or dedication, or, he notes, might be considered a sign of someone being completely insane.
Fair point.
But the crucial takeaway is that even listening a little bit to this constant stream of communication can make a profound difference, leading you to be wiser, healthier, and happier.
And ultimately, the source concludes, the most extraordinary oracle in the entire universe isn't a deck of cards or a set of dice or an ancient book. It's you.
The tools we discussed, the coins, cards, dice, the texts, the pendulum, they are just catalysts. They are different languages or frameworks designed to help you tune into that internal and external communication that's always happening. They provide a structure to quiet your conscious mind, bypass your ego static, and listen to the oracle that resides within you, reflecting the larger intelligence outside of you.
So we've journeyed through the history, the underlying principles, and the practical, sometimes hilarious examples of how ordinary things can become extraordinary oracles. We've learned that divination, as presented in the source, is less about predicting a fixed future and more about gaining clarity, navigating the present, and tapping into a deeper form of communication.
It invites you to look the world around you and the world within you, with new eyes to consider that perhaps every synchronicity, every seemingly random event, every internal nudge is part of a larger conversation, a communication waiting to be noticed.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. Given the book's powerful concluding idea that the most extraordinary oracle is you, and that everything around you could be a form of communication, what might you start looking for differently in your own ordinary world starting today? What messages might be waiting in the mundane?